go in, close the door. You run in.
So I'm running. Last time I saw him, he was
Don't
there.
close the door too hard, you'll break the window.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead and close the door. Bang. And then smash, and get out right away. Get out right away.
Oh, because he's there.
Yeah. Forward, and then he's just right behind you. He's like this.
Yeah.
The minute you get there, he's airborne. This gets knocked over, and he lands and does this. And then you go right back in, and he just comes up and he jumps up here. Perfect. God, that was pretty perfect. I never split any hairs about, do I want to make a sequel to Jurassic Park? Of course I wanted to make a sequel to Jurassic Park. It was just when. It took me a while to recover from that year between making Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. It took me about 2 years to sort of get myself back on my feet. And then I decided that my next picture to follow Schindler's List was going to be the sequel to Jurassic Park called The Lost World.
Are you hungry? Take a bite.
With Jurassic Park, because we'd created this theme park that had gone awry, there was an environment where, yes, you could conceivably continue to come up with stories that would feel related to what the first movie, and you wouldn't really be cheating the audience. You could definitely go to the next level.
Well, Something Has Survived was just a gimmick for a sequel, you know. A lot survived. There was still DNA all over the place, but I somehow liked that idea, and we never really exploited it. But that can of shaving cream that had the DNA of about 8 species of dinosaur. When I was making the first movie, I thought if there's going to be a sequel, it's going to have to be about the retrieval of that can of shaving lotion, and that's how they bring the dinosaurs back. I mean, that's why I did the shot in the movie. But it wound up that Michael Crichton's second book went into an entirely different philosophy about how to reintroduce the dinosaurs. And so I went along with Michael's instincts, and that can is still buried there somewhere, just waiting to rear about 8 ugly heads for another Jurassic Park movie.
Kids. You want to have one of those?
Well, the first movie was very simple. You know, it's a man, you know, his girlfriend, who he can't commit to have children with, and 2 kids that he winds up being a kind of surrogate father and protector of. Very simple story. You know, the much more complicated story, many more characters in the second Jurassic Park movie. You know, you had Arliss Howard.
InGen is my responsibility now, Doctor, and I will jealously defend its interests.
You had Jeff Goldblum in a featured role, kind of back as the lead. I wouldn't be polite. I would just go in with that. It's a really strong line. Just come in with it.
You know, it's very easy to criticize someone who generates an idea, someone who assumes all the risks, someone who lays
You know, when you
it all
try
out
to sound like Hammond, it just comes off like a hustle.
I mean, it's not your fault. They say talent skips a generation, so, hey, I'm sure your kids are going to be sharp as tacks.
Steven Spielberg was very confident on the first one, although we didn't know that it would become what it became. And so afterwards, I think, as I remember during the second one, I think he had that, not that he was unfamiliar with big, giant successes like that, so he knew how to handle that. But I think he was, and everybody was sort of challenged by, you know, wanting to make this the challenge of making a sequel. It wasn't like, hey, now anything we do, gee, this is great, anything we do is okay. I think he wanted to make something very good.
You guys ready to test the log?
On 3 quarts.
1, 2, 3. Okay, that's good.
Ooh, that's scary.
Can they come deeper?
Oh, thanks.
Well,
That
we'll have
hardly
to see her in there. Can we have
Julianne
come in?
Julianne Moore, I've been a fan of for such a long time. We really formed just a very valuable friendship off of the second Jurassic Park movie.
This is a game trail, Mr. Ludlow. Carnivores hunt on game trails. Do you want to set up base camp or a buffet?
And Pete Postlethwaite, one of the greatest actors to have uttered dialogue on stage and in movies. I was very lucky to get him, and I worked with him again, that same year. The second I finished Lost World, I hired him for Amistad. So we worked twice in 1 year together. Cut. Good. One more time. Cut.
Pete Postleway had a couple of scenes where he looked for imprints of the dinosaurs just by himself, looking down, looking around. And Steven Spielberg said to me, "Peter, sit here." And I sat next to him looking at the monitor. And he said to me, and he pointed at Pete Postleway saying, "What a great actor. One day you're gonna be as great as him." It's so rare of a director to say that. Just to sit and love their actors and sort of spread their energy. It's a form of love for the art of acting.
I always said to Peter, your comeuppance in The Lost World was my vengeance on his character in Fargo for killing all those people.
So what'd you think you were going to document? What'd you think you were going to see?
Animals. Maybe, big iguanas.
Vince Vaughn, when we met on that movie, he was very fun and lots of fun to be around. And he had just done this movie called Swingers that he was talking about. And he was so funny.
Jeff has a dance that he does that's fabulous. You should probably show him.
Oh, Vince, he's just trying to...
Why don't you do the big dance that you do? The Mad Landlord.
Okay, so,
And he would always have an invisible book. If you said something or did something, he would take out the invisible book and write a violation, give you a black mark. Secretly, and he would put it back. He always made me laugh.
Dr. Malcolm!
I was very happy I could bring Ariana and I could bring Joey back in a small part, playing, Lex and Timmy.
It's so great. Look at you.
that was a nice surprise to be included in the cameo of Lost World and show up there with Joey and just make our appearance.
You came to see Grandpa?
Yeah, he called me. What, do you know what it's about?
I call that my Steven Spielberg graduation present, because I was on set for 2 hours, max, maybe, and I basically got my college tuition paid for because of that movie. And so it was this like little special gift kind of that I was given, like kind of for doing Jurassic Park, and it was just kind of a little bit of a reunion to see Jeff Goldblum again, to see Ariana again, to work with Steven again. It was great to at least say, you know, that I could kind of just dip my finger in it, just be a part of the next one too.
Just say one thing, because I want to hear it one more time before you leave. I want you to say, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." I want to hear that once. I just got it's my own pleasure. It's an indulgence.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I just had to hear that again. I had to hear that out of his lips. You know, and I really want to use him if there's another Jurassic Park. I'd love to use him again. I mean, he's such a marvelous actor and a wonderful person and a great director, a great filmmaker. And I was very lucky that he said yes to the first Jurassic Park. Got to know him really well. I had known him before that, actually. And then I got to know him better on Jurassic Park, and then he did a kind of a cameo appearance in The Lost World. I thought he was great in that scene.
Don't worry, I'm not going to make the same mistakes again.
No, you're making all new ones.
There's another island with dinosaurs, no fences this time, and you want to send people in, very few people, on the ground, right?
Obviously, it started with Michael Crichton's book, so Michael took it to a slightly darker place. And then because Steven had formed this relationship with Janusz Kaminski, who had been the DP on Schindler and had also done some earlier work with us, he brought a more painterly style to Jurassic and probably harkens back to something like Mysterious Island that I think, or even the old King Kongs, you know, that feeling was something that I know that Steven wanted to tap into a bit. I think Janusz found what that was.
Should we change to 35 or stay on 27?
Let's stay at 20. What would you like 35? Would that make a
That would
difference?
get you, I mean, cut would be, I think.
Let's get 35.
Okay, Chris,
35.
put at 35.
I didn't want the sequel to look exactly like the first movie, and I wanted The Lost World to be a lot more, you know, dark. And the look of the picture should be more contrasty and less, elegant and rich. And now that the audience knows what, 20th century dinosaurs look like, I wanted to take a chance and kind of light them a little more backlit, and a little more film noir, so they didn't just stand there fully in their full, front-lit glory. And that was something that Janusz and I consciously did for the second movie.
By the time the second one rolled around, I knew exactly what I wanted to see in these creatures. And it was an agility, a quickness of movement, an intelligence, and just a warm-bloodedness that we could relate to and fear on some primitive level.
When you revisit a world, it's going back in one way to something that you think is familiar. And then if there's something more to be gotten from that world, then you hopefully are inspired to do more things that are imaginative and that make for a good movie. In the case of Lost World, I think that we, in a funny way, didn't go back to the same place. I mean, literally, we were not going back to the same island. We were going to an island that was supposedly somewhere near there. It opened up a lot of possibilities that I think that we went down the road of that I found interesting, and I still do, actually. One of them is that I wanted to be able to understand and visualize for myself what it was that dinosaurs were like in their natural habitat. And one of the fundamental ideas there is that they did not live in tropical environments in their first existence on Earth. They lived in more like those places where like the redwood trees are.
So that's what really took us to Eureka, which is north of San Francisco on the coast up around Crescent City, where some of the most beautiful redwoods exist.
She'll be here and she'll be there. Then we'll just play the scene on this big flat log.
That's beautiful here.
Yeah. Let's see the big tree. I want I'd like to play with the 21.
Dinosaurs can pick up scents from miles away. We're here to observe and document, not interact.
Should start a little bit earlier even, so you can arrive at the flat area. If you're up here, I can't hold the shot.
Oh, me?
So yes, you have to be.
Stop.
You have to actually stop there.
Here.
And what will stop you is that Julianne will stop you a little farther back.
I'm sick of scratching around in rock and bone and making deductions and assumptions about the nurturing habits of animals that have been dead for 65 million years. I'm sick of it, man.
We have about 5 new dinosaurs. We've got the Packies, we've got these guys, we've got the Stegosaurus, by popular demand, by the way.
Really? Yeah.
Because of the fan mail for the first movie. So many kids said, I wish you had a Stegosaurus.
It was constantly fun to figure out what dinosaurs we were going to have. It was a conversation we were having nonstop with Jack Horner and with Michael Crichton.
There are no pteranodons this big, but Quetzalcoatlus is that big.
Okay, so we just have to change.
If we just change this, could we get away with it, or would we have to go into the whole beak aspect?
No,
We
no,
can keep
no,
this
no,
beak?
Nope, you can
Just
keep
change
that
Would you
beak.
rather see this?
Yeah.
We can do that.
Let's do that instead.
We thought about just the size. We'd put together little timelines so that you could see, in the Jurassic period, what were the dinosaurs that came and went, and what was the size, proximity to one another, and then we were always having to look at a human being next to the dinosaurs. It was a constant process of figuring out what dinosaurs we were going to put in what movie.
The head will be able to dip down and sway and all that.
Sure, absolutely.
Go side by side a bit like this.
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
And that's what it can do?
Yeah, it needs to do that too.
We can do that. We can do that.
It's real simple.
You go back to the dinosaurs.
The puppets were, I think, still necessary to have on set. To be able to see it and feel it and touch it is different. And I remember in Lost World, we had gone up to shoot the Stegosaurus, which we had built a full-size, fully mechanical, it was beautiful, operational Stegosaurus down by a creek. And Steven showed up and looked at it and just kind of at that moment decided, we're just going to do it digital. And even though all the work we had put into it, we were really bummed because we were really proud of it. But we kind of saw where things were going. And we just kind of went, wow, the game is really changing now.
That's when we started to really develop the idea of, if it's a wider shot, and we're seeing the whole thing, it's going to be CG.
Charge you, go. Right now.
And when we're in close and it's interacting, we had the animatronic ones. It was a real different plan. It wasn't like, oh my God, here's this new technology. Now it was being planned for.
It's not like we're just going to do it all CG, or we're not going to do it more animatronic. It still needs to be that mix.
And action.
But the interesting thing that I found in Lost World, when you look at, for instance, the roundup sequence, where there are animals running everywhere. You see them head to toe, and they're running around that roundup sequence, and you know, there's multiple animals interacting and running, and I think that was, you know, the next level of what we could do.
But it had a lot of the most dynamics in it, which was a lot of fun. But the compositing was really difficult. We really tried to give it that feeling of being immersed in something like that, but it's not only around you, it's above you. And these things are so heavy and strong. It's more serious than if it's a, you know, gazelle you're running along with or something like that.
With the confidence that we gained from the first Jurassic Park, Steven did not want stop-motion animatics. He said, I want to go out there, I want a camera that I can put wherever I want to. If I decide at the last minute I want to have a moving camera, you know, a pan or a truck or a dog, I want to be able to do it. And so we were able to do that. And it made our work a lot more challenging, but eventually it was much more rewarding by the same token.
I like those little compies. I mean, something little that's really ferocious and vicious is like, I think in a strange way that's scarier.
We're going to put these guys all over the people, and they just swarm you, and they you know, it's slim pickings, but they get what they can.
To see how all these critters, the compies I had on my costume, is like 4 guys with a lot of things and, you know, motion cops on them, standing like this, and these guys were moving around. Fantastic.
So this shows the life that we'll have even if they're being held.
No, 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 no. Am I good? No, I want a part in this.
I was not allowed to touch them because they, you know, it's so fragile. But he said, can I have one I touch that I can actually take with my hand? So I came up with that idea together with, and Steven said, it looks good if you have someone there. I said, I can control him, hold my head, and give me a blood in my mouth. And I'm gonna put him like, it looks like he's biting my lip, and I hold him like this, and then I spit blood, and I throw him on the ground at this guy, which was just rubber, you know. It was a beautiful piece of craft and artistry they've done, but that didn't have any robotics in it.
The compy sequence to this day remains probably my personal favorite sequence of any of the Jurassics. I think the animation is beautifully refined. And I remember when Dennis approached me to see the storyboards, and I remember looking at this thinking, this is impossible. The freedom of the camera movement and what they expected these hordes of little creatures to do.
I thought the compies were one of the hardest, but for a lot of reasons. Technically, many more things had to be animated. They all had to match, especially if they're jumping up in the air, match, you know, the motion of the actor. And because they were so small and you could see their entire body, the sense of gravity and weight had to be perfect, or else they were going to look like they're kind of floaty and kind of CG-ish and all.
And so that was just one of many sequences that was extremely difficult and became wonderfully executed.
Easy. Please come now.
Stan, talk to us about this. Can he put this thing around? Can Vince put it around his mouth and tighten it?
Yes, he can, but when he's got it and he's got it around and closed it, he's got to go with the dinosaur.
Okay.
If he fights him totally, and I talked to him, Vince, just got to know, when you feel him pulling, go with him.
So I can be a little bit tougher.
You can be tighter around the mouth. We're going to close the mouth.
Okay.
But you really have got to, you've got to really sort of fake going with it, because if you fight it, you'll beat it and break it.
Yeah, right.
This baby T-Rex was a bit of hydraulics, plus cables. So that had to be figured out. It has to be very organic in its motion, but it's almost a little too big for, you know, normal cable kind of things, but it's too small to put big full hydraulics in there. So it was an interesting hybrid of cable and small hydraulics in linear actuators moving it around.
I just need something temporary, something that'll break apart.
Joey Orozco had sculpted that, and that was a difficult one because Vince Vaughn had to actually be holding it while it was moving and acting and everything. So we had to hide this huge umbilical, you know, coming out the back of it that was operated by puppeteers.
Then there was another self-contained version of it, you know, because they had to run around with it.
Oh my God!
That was a remote control baby T-Rex. There were no wires coming out of that animal because it was all RC.
Come on, let's go. Get the door open. Oh.
That to me was one of the more successful, and I'm not sure why. I think because it was fully contained. It was, you know, you could lift it off of a table and its feet worked and its tail moved and its head could kind of come up. And usually we were kind of bound with the other puppets, you know, to the stage.
Hurry up, Nick.
Let's go. Go, go, go. Come on.
I look at that shot today and I remember shooting those scenes and just looking at Stan and just saying to Stan, you build 30-foot tall dinosaurs, but there's your miracle. That little baby T-Rex that Vince is holding, that's your creative miracle.
In Lost World, we doubled the fun with 2 T-Rexes, so really twice the work for everybody on set. So double the planning, double the interactive stuff, double the puppeteers, double it was massive. But to be able to see 2 T-Rexes together was, you know, something that I think everybody wanted to see.
The lower jaw will go in through the back window. The upper jaw will go over the top of the light bar. It'll grab it, and it'll go straight up at that point, up and back.
Action!
Biggest challenge on Lost World was getting those 2 T-Rexes on the road in the rain. That was just enormous logistics, if nothing else. Now we're transporting 2 T-Rexes in the middle of the night over to the stage. And then we're figuring out how to lay this track down that these things can work on with all of engineering for that, making sure the stage floor and structure can handle it. And Michael Lantieri's group were integral into working with us on all of that aspect.
But you couldn't move the 2 mechanical T-Rexes. And so they don't go to the sets come to them. So that's why what we did is we positioned the 2 T-Rexes on a stage, on tracks, and we just came and went, constantly moving our sets in and around the T-Rexes so that they could actually perform and never actually have to leave the stage.
We can see through the mouth, just like that. Moving around, good. Then the other head comes down. And I'll say, Rich, look the other way. And then we rack over, we see the eye looking into you.
And the puppeteering in that was pretty crazy.
Stan, is it possible to just put Lee in the car with that low camera that's already there and just have the Rex make that move as if to try to get Lee? Just coming in to get while we're all lit for it. Ready, action. Lee, move your feet.
I was the lucky guy manipulating the T-Rex's head, but I couldn't see it live from where I had to be. So it was very tricky because even though I'm moving this head and it's moving one-to-one with me, I'm watching this through a monitor and I don't have any depth perception. So I had to assemble like tennis balls on the end of C-stands so I could figure out if I turn him this much, then that's how far he moves inside the Jeep. There's also that sequence where the one character gets plucked out of the Jeep and gets shaken. Well, that was done real.
What we need to do is just be prepared for it and shut down. And what we have to be prepared for is shut them right off if they start wobbling, okay?
It was dangerous having 1 T-Rex in the first movie, and it was, of course, twice as dangerous having a couple of them. We had big perimeters with lights warning caution lights. Yeah, you had to be really cautious. We had people watching, crew, to make sure that when the T-Rexes were hot, in other words, when they were armed, nobody was in that injury zone. And unfortunately, no one got hurt.
It was very challenging, and personally, it was challenging for Gary Hyams, who was the stunt coordinator. But we rehearsed it, and we had it down, so it all went off without a hitch. But it's one of those moments where you're a little sweating.
These two T-Rexes that are life-size, so we actually could act with them. They were knocking the thing around, and the challenge was then to go, gee, this is we're not going to get a chance to do this too many times. I better make this as good as it can be, because this can't get any better than this. You can't get any more help than this. It was really beautiful.
Hang on, this is going to be bad.
We built the trailers in my shop, and we made some that we could drag through the mud. We made one of them that we would roll over with custom camera mounts and bearings so the camera could be affixed to the end and the trailer roll, but the camera stay upright and see what's going on. And then the idea of hanging it over this cliff came up where it's all, just slowly slipping. And Rick Carter, I think, comes up with the idea, why don't we just build a mountain? We'll build a mountain somewhere. And so we took over the parking structure up front at Universal and built a mountain over the parking structure.
Yeah, we took the entire building. It was like a multi-tiered office garage. And we had just built a cliff wall where we were able to hang part of the trailer over the edge, right by the LA River.
3, 2, 1, action!
Certainly, there was such a confidence gain from the first one that spilled into not only the dinosaurs, but also certain sequences such as the trailer falling off the cliff. So CG was used in a number of ways.
Let's wet it up, people. We've got a very big night ahead of us.
Now it's all straight down. Look straight down. Left.